Hi guys, Mike here, and we're working on the reed surface grinder refurbishing thing today. And what we have here is the bearing retainers, the roller bearing retainers for the table. And there's actually 3 of these things. This one operates on the flat. Then there's 2 of these. One of them was broken when I took the table off. And this is a homemade one that somebody stuck in there. It's made out of aluminum, a real piece of junk. So I think we're going to make these over. Between all 3 of these parts, there's 49 of these rectangular holes in here. And I could mill them out square and then file the corners, but I think I would prefer to just pierce those in there in one stroke. And you know, that'll save a lot of time because there's so many of them, and I think we'll get a better quality job. So in order to pierce these in here, we need a pierce die. So we're going to make a simple pierce die, and the first thing that we need is a die shoe. So we'll just make a little rectangular shoe out of 2 3/4-inch plates that I have laying around here, and it'll have 2 guide pins and 2 bushings, and we'll make those up ourselves. And then once we have the shoe, then we will go ahead and go into determining what we need for a pierce punch and the stripping system and the die steels, and probably some kind of a guide rail to hold the stock square. So that's where we're at, and I'm going to go ahead and get the plates and take them over to the mill and begin to finish the edges off and make them a little bit presentable. So stay with me. I'll meet you at the mill. And now I'm setting up to square this first edge, and I've got a side rail for this angle plate somewhere, and I cannot find it. Boy, that's aggravating. So I'm going to have to make do with something else. All right. So I just bolted one of my parallels on the side here to use as a side rail, and that'll work fine. So now all I have to do, if I can do it without being in the way of the camera, is pull out against the side rail okay, pull that up. And now that'll be as square as my angle plate is. Okay, so we're ready to take a square up cut on this top edge, and we'll do the 2 plates separate on that because we don't have any good way to hold them together. I could have welded the corners, but we'll just do them separate. Then once the 2 edges are squared up on the 2 plates, then we can put the plates back together, lay it on the bottom surface, and finish them at the same time. getting ready to put the guide pin and bushing holes in my die shoes. The guide pins are going to be 1.5, the bushings are going to be 1.5. So what I've done is I've clamped the lower shoe in my vise on parallels to give me some room so I don't go through and hit my vise. And then I've sandwiched 1/8 tool bits between there and clamped it down with these little low pro cheapy clamps I've made up. So we'll be going through with a 1-inch bore, and then we'll finish with the 1.5-inch bore for the bushing. So now what I'll do is I'll center drill it, of course, and then I'll go through with my pilot drill. And what size am I going to make my pilot drill? What I like to do is I like to measure the next size drill's web, so it's 3/16 of an inch web on this one. So I'll go through with a 3/16 drill after I center drill it, and then I'll go right through with my 7/8 drill, and I'll come back and bore it to size on both bores. So now we've got the holes roughed in for our pins and bushings. Actually, the pins would be more properly called guideposts, and the bushings are guide bushings. But we'll pop the boring head in there, and we'll bore the bottom holes to 1 inch for the pins, and the top holes to 1.5 inches for the bushings. And then we're ready to make the pins and bushings. Okay, next step. Okay guys, these are roughed out to within about 15 thousandths of finished dimension, and I'm using high-speed steel. So now I took the bar out and I'll give it a good sharpening, and then we'll finish these out. And I'll use my micrometers and snap gauges to hit the finished dimensions. Okay guys, we got our die set done, and we'll continue on this by building punch and the die steels. And it came out pretty well. It works pretty good for not having ground pins and bushings on it. And that'll be probably a real slick tool to use for piercing those holes out. We do have a few extra holes in here. Those were in the scrap material that I used. We'll just call those lightning holes, but they won't bother us. We'll just bridge around those. So that's enough footage for this video, and we'll see you on the next video, I hope. And thanks for watching, and until then, this is Mike signing out.